Okay, so we're back at the Austin today. Last week we managed to get it running with the bare basics. There was no water in the engine. We only ran it a short time and it worked, which was good. Surprisingly, it started first go. So because this vehicle is only going to be used at home, just on the farm for a bit of fun at this stage, and we're not going to register it to put it onto the road, we're only going to do basic fixes to it to get it going. One of those is, at this stage, the vehicle is a 6-volt positive earth system, which we will change over to a 12-volt negative earth, just to make it a bit easier and use some common parts. So one of the first things I'll do is, I've actually got this coil out of our Series 3 Land Rover. It was a spare they had lying around and I'm going to replace it. I'm going to move it off the generator where it was before, and I think a lot of them show it, the coil either sitting up here or down here. These two holes line up with the bracket, so I'm going to remount this one up here to keep it out of the heat off the engine a bit and out of the way. So we'll get that coil located. I've also had this shut off switch here for the battery, so we'll get that one mounted in there. I've got to find a spot. I'm trying not to cut any extra holes into this firewall where possible, because we're still not sure on the future of this vehicle, but at the moment it is just going to be fixed up to work and drive as is without any full restoration on it. In these old cars, as you can see, we've got the generator. The distributor actually runs off the back of it. The previous owner has already pretty well decommissioned it before, so it's purely only in here to run the distributor, which is all we're going to do as well. We won't be using it anymore to charge the batteries. I'll eventually try and make a mount and just mount a small one-a-day alternator in there, a 12-volt one, to solve that problem. So this will basically just stay there to keep the distributor going, nothing else. I'll just pull this bracket off. It's no longer needed. It is, I think, something someone has made up to fit the coil on there, but since we're relocating the coil where it's going to be a bit cooler, this is only going to be an excess piece of rubbish on there, which isn't required. Okay, so I managed to find some bolts and screws for this. Because we're not at home, I've only got a basic toolkit with me, and anything I need I've sort of just have to scrounge around in this old shed and try and find, which, when it's not organised, can be a bit difficult, but I've managed to find a couple of screws. So we'll just mount this one up here at this stage. Okay, that one gets that out the way, a bit tidier. Try and just utilise what we have here for holes at the moment to mount a couple of bare bones basics. Hoping we can just get this cut off switch in here. Need to find a few more brass bolts, which with a bit of luck these holes should line up with our switch and sit on top. Once I can line up that hole, there we go. work. Be just enough flex in those. That should work and just keep it from grounding. So, although they don't really line up, but it's good enough for today. That'll do the trick. So I won't put the nuts on top of these yet. We'll wait till we get the cables on there first, just so it's a bit easier to access. So I found this, it's pretty old. Put a switch here. We're going to use that one at this stage to turn the coil on and off. Too small for the hole, but I managed to find a couple odd size washers, basically just so we can get it mounted in the hole at this stage, and we can fix it up better another day. But once again, for now, it'll serve the purpose, just switch that coil on and off as needed. So I'll just loosely screw this one in there at the moment. I've got our switch mounted in there. Previously we just had this clipping on and off the battery to turn it on and off the coil. So what I'll do is I'll now cut into that and run it through the switch. So let's just cut that one off there. That's pretty enough. And we'll run that into one side of this little switch. The other side, I'll come back out that switch. Trim that off a bit. In there, and this other side we're just going to run to our isolation switch in here, so I'm only going to trim that short. Get one of these on there. That will go to there. Okay, so this one here is pretty long. We'll just shorten it up while we're at it. there. These old engines are good in that at the end of the day they actually don't need much in the way of electronics to get them going. Basically just need to get power to that coil. This has got a very basic electrical system. There's actually no starter solenoid on these. It is a manual pull switch like that. So what I'm going to do for the moment, I've just got some spare cable. I'm just going to run it through here inside the cab, and that'll give us a means just to pull that starter from inside. So I've got some of this thin cable here. It's going to be very simple and rough, but it will work. So we'll just put that one on here. Here. And as rough as that looks, it's actually very simple. So last time I've just used a set of leads that I had lying around from the Series 2. They're way too short to suit this, so I just went online and picked up a generic set which aren't cut to length. They come with the plugs and that in there. I'll put the link in the description where you can get these if you're after. They're only cheap, they don't have to be high performance or anything for this engine, it's only basic. So they just come like this, they're about 1 metre long, and they have the ends so you can just cut them to suit. It's a lot easier doing it that way than going out trying to measure and get them all the right size. You may have noticed in the last video when we first started this, it was very loud. The reason for that is it's obviously got no exhaust on it, it's just coming straight out the manifold. I've got a couple of bits and pieces lying around, a muffler or two, and a bit of pipe, so I'm going to just undo this joint and we will see if we can rig something up that will temporarily just make it a bit more quieter for when we're playing on it. I've managed to undo those nuts off here and surprisingly that comes off easy. So this is what we've got. I'll see if I can somehow join a bit of pipe and a muffler onto that one. I've just pulled this off. This is what I've got to work with here. So I sort of figure I can cut this one off and I'll rejoin that on there. Hopefully I can get these clamped together. And this should fit inside there underneath, and it'll just exhaust underneath the vehicle for the moment. Hopefully that should just do what we need. So this is what we've ended up with. I've been lucky that the internal diameter of this part actually is pretty close to the external diameter of that piece that I pulled off. So I'm going to try and get that under there, clamp this one on, and it will just exhaust straight out the bottom. We've been pretty lucky, that's fitted in there quite nice. It's only temporary, like I said, just to cut down the noise a bit, but I'll tie this up with a bit of wire to the chassis. I don't have to worry about any of the heat of any of this inside at the moment because there is nothing inside but steel, so that's not going to be an issue. I've just made up a shorter little lead here to go from the starter motor to our isolation switch. I don't have any gas or soldering iron here, so I can't actually do these properly. I've just crimp them basically on there at this stage with a pair of multi-grips. I'll fix them up another day. So I'll just refit that one now. I've pulled off the original one as it was longer, and I'll reuse that to go from the isolation switch up to the battery. I've just gone up and made up another lead for this. I couldn't find a drill bit to enlarge the hole in the other one. This will probably work a bit better because we may end up just putting the battery in the passenger side, just on the floor at this stage, because these old battery boxes, it's too hard to fit a modern sized battery in there. The old 6-volt ones are actually square, whereas I see the newer ones are more of a rectangular shape, which doesn't really fit into it. We could probably get a smaller one in there, but I don't have one on hand at the moment, so I would just leave these long. Like I said, we'll just move the battery inside. Okay, I'm just going to turn this out so it doesn't arc out against that bolt there. Spread that more. I don't have no battery terminals clamp on type here, so I'm just going to use some hose clamps just to get us by at this stage. Just to clamp those cables on there. It'll work for what we're after at the moment. We've just hooked everything up again. We're going to give it a test run, make sure it's all working properly. We haven't stuffed anything up, so let's see how she goes. On, coil on. Now that's not a good sign. This is actually the top water inlet. I can see exhaust gas coming out of there. When we pulled this off, there was a lot of oxidization. Our suspicion is possibly because there's a copper head gasket in these, that over time has possibly eroded that away. So we're going to have to pull this off. We do have a spare head gasket there. And we'll pull it off and we'll see what's happening inside there before we go and refill this with any water. We're going to remove this head off here, see what's happening inside, because there is a fair bit of exhaust gas coming out the water. I may not have the right socket here. These could be Whitworth. I've only got AF and metric on me. I didn't have a Whitworth socket, but some of these aren't that tight and they are coming loose with a shifter. If they were real tight, I probably couldn't do this. I have snapped one trying, but it would have snapped either way. I'll retrieve that later. Let's just see if we can get them loose. At this stage, that one I think has just snapped too. So they're pretty crusty, as you can see, which is why some of these are broken. Let's see what's happening in here. happening. Clean this up a bit better so we can see what's happening. There's a little bit of damage on this cylinder here. On the top of the piston, I should say. They're not too bad though. When we compression tested it early in the piece, number one was a little bit low, but the others are all okay. So we probably won't do anything with these. I think it should do for what we need. The valves, we may pull them out, clean them up and re-lack those in there. Here's the head. I've just spent a few minutes shaking what I could out of it. There's a fair bit of rust and that that's come out, which is fine. It's pretty clean now. I'll have to see if this is warped. There's a bit of a ridging in here. So we'll take that home, see what we can do with it. Fortunately, we do have a spare. We'll also see, I guess at the end of the day, we're going to see which one's the flattest. This one possibly been machined years ago, we don't know. But like I said, we'll take them both home, see which one is the best, and we'll bring that back and reuse the best one we can out of it. Either way, got two there, one to spare.
I've just put back in the steering column, so we've got steering again. And I've also reattached the brake pedal. So we've got brakes in the rear. Unfortunately, we're missing the linkage for the front two brakes. I've also adjusted the clutch so that that works properly now.
This is where we'll be leaving it for this week. So I've basically got some sort of ignition system in there. Fix those leads up, steering column back, brakes back. Just have to look into that head problem with that leakage. Hopefully we can sort that one out, and we're waiting on parts for the cooling system to come, some hoses, and also a belt for the fan. See you in the next episode. Thank you for watching.